The Earth is full of wonders and one too many mysteries. There's some places in the world that share this mystery. Some are off-limits, some are currently being unraveled, some are beautiful sources of delight, some may never be fully comprehended by humans, but we can all agree that they have one thing in common. These insane places are rare and astounding, whether born from nature or from man. You're sure to be surprised as we introduce you to some of the most insane places you've never heard of. Not all of Cambodia's medieval mystery are as well known as the world's biggest religious monument, Angkor Wat, a well-known home to dozens of medieval temples. 2016 saw the use of laser technology by archaeologists to demonstrate the existence of a network of underground medieval settlements. The biggest one is right outside Angkor Wat. Although Phnom Penh is the capital of modern-day Cambodia, several of these recently found towns, which date back between 1900 and 1400 years, are comparable in size to Phnom Penh. If we believe that, like Angkor Wat, these cities peaked in the 12th century, and it would have been the world's largest empire. Archaeologists in the city have discovered sophisticated water systems that were previously believed to be a staggering 200 years ahead of its time. The question of why Angkor Wat was so unique and the whereabouts of all the people who must have used it for labor and settlement have long baffled historians. There's this very mysterious and intriguing place known as the Place of No Return by the local folks. It appears to be where time stands still, and it's deep within Kazakhstan's mysterious Barsak Plateau. This curse originates from the folklore in Kazakhstan concerning those who visited and either never came back or returned years later with bizarre tales of time travel and UFO encounters. And if you question, what is the precise reason people visit there but never come back? Apparently, there might be no answer. Even the most inquisitive scientific minds are unable to have an explanation. Barsakelmez, another name for this eerie plateau, was formerly an island in the Aral Sea, but due to climate change, it dried out and turned into the now Kazakhstan's plateau. The fact that some people turned blue after spending the night in this plateau is another intriguing yet odd fact, and one more startling revelation. There is a cemetery there, and yes, fresh graves are always being dug. However, on this deserted island, who is burying whom and where? To this day, these questions remain unresolved. To find answers, one would have to venture in this unknown in the cost of their life. But who's going to do it? Another place would be Mosquito Bay. By the name, you'd think all those flying insects will be hovering around. Situated on the southern flank of the IKEA-colored Puerto Rican islands, tracer lines emerge in the water while tiny fish dart through the shadows. There's nothing magical causing this illumination. Mosquito Bay is among the most vivid instances of the bioluminescent water bodies. Bioluminescence is a type of natural light produced when chemical energy is transformed into light by living things. These living things, known as dinoflagellates, notably Pyridinium bahamense, are what give this bay its glow. Approximately 700,000 mosquitoes per gallon of water are also present in Mosquito Bay. The effective size of the light they emit, despite their tiny size, is 100 times more than their own bodies. And in large quantities, they erupt like an underwater aurora imprisoned by a bend in the bay's entrance and nourished by the mangroves that are just beginning to emerge. The bay serves as an ideal habitat for the dinoflagellates. Sensing movement in the water, these minuscule organisms emit light in the form of swirling blue-green plumes that finally return to the black calm of the bay. It is believed that their bioluminescence is a defensive mechanism. The larger fish that are drawn to this light have the ability to repel the smaller fish that consume these dinoflagellates. It also adds to the weird feeling of canoeing through the bay. The impacts of erosion are particularly severe on the northern part of the Scottish island of Orkney. Although it's not always a good thing, archaeologists have been able to make a few finds there because of it. experts would never have discovered bovine jaw bones, rectangular bands, deer antlers, boar teeth, and marked incised stones in and around the Bay of Scale if it weren't for erosion. These days, they speculate that this was previously the location of a village during the Neolithic era. The town of Skara Brae, which is located less than a mile away, provides further evidence that humans once lived here, but it has long been believed that Skara Brae was the sole community on the island at the time. It appears likely that the inhabitants of Skara Brae around 5,100 years ago had neighbors. It so happened that in 1850, a storm was the reason archaeologists first saw Skara Brae. We have now discovered its sister town in a much identical manner. Right now, the race is on to get as much data as possible from the location before the erosion worsens. Colosso dell'Apennino, I call it a crazy statue because it's not your average statue. There are still a lot of unsolved questions about this centuries-old enigma. Sculpted by the gifted Flemish artist Jan Bologna, this enormous stone sculpture resembles a living representation of the Apennine Mountains. There is a huge world waiting to be explored inside this enormous figure. Not only that, but this sculpture has slits in his eyes and ears, emits smoke, and uses a system of water pipes to allow it to cry and sweat. And it's holding a sea monster carelessly, creating a pond. We're still not sure how they accomplished this masterpiece of a work, so we can only speculate as to what additional mysteries are concealed within this enormous body. The Nescoin Ghost Forest, named after the ancient rotting stumps, rises out of the sand and seawater on Oregon's Tillamook coast. They serve as a hauntingly lovely reminder of the massive Sitka spruce trees that had stood in this location approximately 2,000 years ago. These ancient stumps were concealed beneath the sand for millennia, only sometimes poking above the waves every several decades. Back then, the ghost woodland was merely a myth among the locals. Strong storms that pounded the coast from 1997 to 1998 wore away the sands, revealing these strange natural treasures that had been hidden there. According to geological theories, these old trees may have fallen during the significant earthquake that struck the Cascadidias abduction zone around 1700 or as recently as 2,000 years ago. The wooded area was lowered into the tidal zone by the earthquake. The trees were probably beheaded when the ocean waves surged in, leaving just their trunks immersed in the mud to fend against deterioration and preserve the forest remnants for years to come. The remnants of these giants coexist on the shore with small tide pools and a variety of marine life before they met their watery end. But the gigantic trees that stand 150 to 200 feet tall now. The low tide's shallow waters disclose the phantom-like forest, and when the summer tide drops to its lowest point, more and more old stumps are exposed. It might be challenging to distinguish between the authenticity in the stories related about Knossos since they are so intricate and rich. This is regarded by many archaeologists as the earliest European city ever founded. What's remained of it is classified as a Bronze Age archaeological site and can be found on the island of Crete. Actually, it could be far older than that. The Neolithic era provides evidence of human settlement in this area from the 9,000-year-old artifacts and remains found in the area's caves and rock shelters. The core of the once mighty Minoan civilization was the palace that was constructed in Knossos, parts of which are still intact. It was abandoned about 3,400 years ago for unclear reasons. When it was constructed around 4,000 years ago, it was located in the midst of a town that may have had 18,000 residents. The population increased by about 100,000 in just 300 years. Archaeologists are still searching for the fabled labyrinth with its minotaur, which is supposed to be located beneath the palace. However, they haven't discovered anything yet. Imagine an insane island rising out of a vast, unending ocean like two peaks. I present Skellig Michael. The creative and historic essence of Ireland is hidden in this place. This island, named after the Archangel Michael, previously supported a Gaelic monastery in the 6th century. This Riki was the residence of Christian monks for hundreds of years. They were housed in stone beehive huts, but when the monks left in the 13th century, Skellig Michael became a hallowed place of pilgrimage. Now prepare yourself for a challenge if you wish to put yourself in the monk's position. Reaching the top is like discovering a hidden treasure, even though climbing 618 steep and uneven steps is no simple task. In addition to its extensive past, Skellig Michael is a birder's paradise, home to the second-largest gannet colony in the world and a shelter for avian lovers. And you should definitely check it out if you're a fan of Star Wars. Imagine having the chance to visit the filming locations of Star Wars, A Force Awakens, and The Last Jedi. Let's get back to the main mystery that baffles everyone. How in the world did those prehistoric monks construct a monastery on such a remote and rugged rock? Nobody has been able to solve the conundrum, which gives Skellig Michael's enduring story an additional element of mystique. Göbekli Tepe, the belly-shaped Turkish Forb Hill, is a unique location. A small number of discoveries made in 1994 by German archaeologist Klaus Schmidt and his colleagues revolutionized the way archaeologists view Stone Age man. The location is from the late Stone Age, approximately 1100 and 1500 years ago. The general consensus at the time was that hunter-gatherers were constantly moving through the vast Göbekli Tepe complex, never really settling down to live day to day. Large T-shaped pillars with animal carvings, enormous stone rings, and an abundance of rectangular rooms make up the site. It is seen by many as having religious significance. Some assume that rituals and sacrifices took place at this location rather than domestic activities. And it is precisely because of this that some consider the Göbekli Tepe site to be the oldest known religious complex to modern man. The location has frequently prompted exuberant analogies to the Garden of Eden or the Cradle of Religion, which has long been connected to the Fertile Crescent and the Sumerian ancestors who created written language. The fact that no evidence of hunter-gatherers existed prior to this discovery is equally puzzling. Its continuous construction of colossal monuments and structures may make it the closest example of ancient architecture in the globe. Theories suggest that Göbekli Tepe may be representing a transitional phase, illustrating the initial agricultural endeavors of nomadic cultures that would eventually lead to permanent settlement. India is home to several stunning Hindu temples, but the Brihadiswara Temple in Thanjavur, Tamil Nadu, is one of a kind. One of the biggest Hindu temples in the world, this Dravidian-styled temple to the god Shiva is regarded as the best surviving example of completely realized Tom Mills architecture. According to history, the Chola Emperor Raja gave the order for the temple's construction. Specifically, Raja I, whose building project lasted from 1003 until 1010. When the temple was first constructed, the Great Living Chola temples were a UNESCO World Heritage Site, which includes Brihadiswara Temple. Surrounded by a moat, the temple had magnificent sculptures and frescoes associated with Shivaism, Vaishnavism, and Shaktism. Regrettably, the temple sustained destruction from an unspecified incident some 100 years ago, which resulted in some of its artwork being lost. In addition to its historical significance and breathtaking beauty, the temple was fortified by walls constructed in the 16th century. Notable features of the temple include one of India's largest Shiva lingas,